For those of us who have been in this fight, this is not really an attack on DEI. Well, it's the catchword, the buzzword DEI. People don't even say what it stands for, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because if you say that, not many people are going to say, I'm completely against equity and inclusion and diversity. That does not make sense. So they're using it as a buzzword, and they're trying to instill fear amongst all kinds of folks across the country that we should move away from the embrace of those principles, when actually that is part of the American story.
Alrighty, welcome in. That's your favorite political podcast. It's Alabama Politics This Week with Josh Moon and
David Purcell.
How about that? I remembered to let you introduce yourself this week, David.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm back to normal. Yeah, back to normal over here.
Me and my people appreciate you and your people. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. It's I'm back to normal in that we've got apparently just like a lottery drawing in terms of temperature. One day it's 77, the next day it's 33, the next day it's 54. And so which is really fantastic for somebody with some sinus issues. That barometric pressure deal is fantastic. But no, we're rolling along. I want to thank our folks over at Wind Creek Entertainment for their continued sponsorship of this fine program and everything that they've been able to do for us and everything they do for the state. I'm going to say again, you guys are looking for something to do. We all know you're looking for something to do. It's just that time of year, and we're about to get into the tournament. I mean, into the NCAA tournament. I mean, we all know who's going to win the tournament. That's a given.
Oh, is that so? It's a done deal for Auburn?
It's a done deal. You can wrap it up, baby.
All right. Okay.
It's it is. But still, you can go down and have some fun, hanging out at the casino and in Atmore, Wetumpka, or Montgomery, and have a nice little time down there watching some games, playing some games, and also treating your wife to a nice time. It's go to the spa, go to dinner. Listen, a wise man once told me that your only goal in marriage is to watch the game. Okay, you want to keep things happy and copacetic enough to where you can watch the game and nobody gives you any hell. Okay, so this is the way to go about it. All right, this is the way to go about it. All right, just make sure you're doing your part. And then you get treated fairly on the backside of things, okay?
All right.
And so I'm telling you, this is advice for life, okay?
That's the way to do it. Yeah. A nice trip to a Wind Creek casino. So a different wise man once told me that what a husband wants is good food and good sex. So we'll add good food, good sex, and watching the game. How about that? How about that?
Well, like in that, I know for a fact you can acquire one of those at the Wind Creek Casino, okay? Because they do offer some fantastic food in their restaurants at all three locations. It's just, I mean, the steakhouse is great. The barbecue places are great. You will not regret it. Go down and stay. And then if you do these things and you are giving and you get the dinner, you get the spa, you get the whole thing, then you will be rewarded with being able to watch the game and the good sex. That's our guarantee to you. So you go down and have a good time. Okay, just go have a good time.
Yeah, but if you
look them up online, Wind Creek Entertainment.
But just one word of just one caveat. If you don't get the good sex, don't send us any emails. That's go see a marriage therapist or something. Don't come to us.
Yeah, we got I had no advice for you outside of that. There's nothing I can help you with. You got to handle your own business in that
That's
department.
It.
Okay, all I can do is tell you the folks that can set you up for a good life, and the folks who can do that are the folks at Wind Creek Entertainment. Look them up online, book you a stay, have a good time.
We can give you the alley-oop, but the dunk is on you.
That's right. All right. anything happen over the like say Friday of last week that since we record a little earlier than that, anything happened in the Oval Office that might have caused a bit of a stir or a ruckus?
Oh boy, yeah, what a crazy scene in the Oval Office. Not unlike the crazy scene that we experienced with the so-called State of the Union. But yeah, that was a good lead up to the State of the Union, wasn't it? That scene between Zelensky and Trump and Vance, right?
Yeah, yeah. It just, I mean, it's every day. So I said, it's every day. It's something all the time. It is so exhausting. And I know that's by design. Like I get it. It's by design.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way that they do things. So you get so exhausted with the idiocy that you don't pay attention to the small idiocies.
Right.
And it is it God, it's all the time. But yeah, what happened with Zelensky was such a I mean, it's such an absolute disgrace to start with.
Mm-hmm.
That you bring in the president of a democratic country that we've partnered with, we're allies with. We've actually signed an agreement to protect them. I don't know if everybody realizes that or not, but that's part we've made an agreement to protect them. Made it years ago when
Mm-hmm.
they gave up their nuclear arsenal,
Right.
and so we owe that to them, what we're doing right now. We've given them far less money than what we've given to Israel and some of these other places around. We've spent far less money over there than we ever spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I just what kills me is again the just the outright shamelessness of so many Republicans who just go along with what Trump says, despite all the things that they've said in the past about Zelensky, about Russia, about the invasion. I mean, I brought up, I had a Facebook post of a resolution that we passed in Alabama 3 years ago, March 1st, 2022. We passed this resolution that was in condemning Russia and pledging our full support to Ukraine. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, Kay Ivey was pulling all Russian liquor out of the ABC stores around
Hmm.
here. There was they had photos of her touring some plant in Alabama where they make the missiles, the Javelin missiles that we were sending to Ukraine, and she had a great quote about how she wanted Putin to know that these were coming from Alabama. Last thing they remember, they come from Alabama, and it just and now everybody's just, "Oh, no, that Zelensky's a dictator," and, I don't know who is the aggressor? Who's to say? Who's to say who's at
Well,
fault here?
one thing that the politicians, I think, generally speaking, count on, and definitely right now with the Republicans, they count on the fact that people don't remember. What you're talking about. A lot of people have forgotten about, Josh. They're not.
Mhm.
They are just as. I mean, we as the general public is easily manipulated. And
Yeah.
all it takes is the right con man to sell it. And Trump, give him this. If I don't give him anything else, I can definitely give him this. He is one heck of a con man. He's
Yeah.
perfected the art over the decades. And so he sold the country a bill of goods, and far too many people, because they don't remember, are just moving along with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, one of the worst is Tommy Tuberville. Some of the comments that he's made about Zelensky as a dictator and how Trump is controlling this thing and how we've given way too much money to Ukraine and how it's just we can no longer do this and that this was a bad idea and the whole thing. Let me read you some comments. Uh, Putin rejects Western ideals. He toys with sovereign nations and he plays by an entirely different set of rules, his own. And when President Biden signals that our words are hollow or that we will disregard our allies, our adversaries like Putin take notice. Putin's goal is to deter Ukraine from joining NATO. He wants their pro democracy government to collapse, Ukrainians to abandon their resolve to take over the country that largely despises him. he wants a buffer between him and the West, and he wants the United States to step aside and let him do this. Who said those words?
Tuberville.
Tommy Tuberville. Yeah, Tommy Tuberville on the Senate floor in 2022.
There you go.
I mean, I mean, yeah, you're right. They count on people not remembering, but I mean, my God, man, you know what I mean? I mean, just watching what's taking place in this, there's, I mean, the unwillingness of some people to even say, it's like, it's like Zelensky said, JD, what diplomacy do you speak of? I mean, what,
right.
I mean, what, you know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
Like, what and he's right. Like, what are you talking about, man? I mean,
Mhm.
that's basically in broken Russian or Ukrainian. That's basically what he was saying is, what are you talking about, man?
That's
What are
it.
you even doing here?
That's it.
I mean,
It's
no, I
it
mean, they've broken every agreement. They've broken every ceasefire. They've broken every promise to return prisoners. They've invaded the country, and we're over here. We've got Hegseth, the Fox News host, over here as the defense secretary, who all of a sudden can't remember whether or not who was the aggressor,
right.
who
Who
invaded
invaded
who
which
here.
country? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
all except for the fact we can go and pull up the clips from him on TV talking about Russia invading Ukraine.
Mhm. Yeah, well, again, it's just they count on us to forget, and they are so. I think what we're really entering into is an indisputable era where you've got politicians that are just clearly spineless. I mean, you got very few that will take a stand. Now, we've had a few, I think they were House Democrats, Republicans, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe they were Senate Republicans who did concede over the past week or so that Russia was the aggressor,
Yeah.
But you've had very few that have actually spoken that truth. The rest of them are just sort of dancing along like they're in some kind of, marijuana-induced haze or crack-induced haze or something. I don't get it.
I don't. I mean, well, I mean, they're scared. You know, they're scared of the threats made against them by Trump and his team of people. I know I've talked to a couple of Republicans who are in the Senate and who are in Congress, and and I know what they go through. I know what they deal with in terms of Trump and his team of people. They are relentless in their threats and their pressure campaigns on every single topic. They are relentless. They call constantly, wanting to know if you're going to do this, wanting to know if you're gonna carry through, wanting to know if they can count on you, wanting to know if this is it, and then then it turns a little nasty, wanting to know if you want to be primaried, and wanting to know if you have if you're sure you have the support that can withstand President Trump coming out against you. I mean, and it is a constant berating of them over and over and over again. And, it just, yeah, I think first of all, a lot of them are weak anyways. I mean, you can listen to them and know that they're weak minded, because they buy into all sorts of loony horseshit. That, I mean, you're like, what in the world are you talking about, man? I mean, my God, how have you not been taken advantage of by an email scam by now? Or hell, some of them probably have.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then you watch them try to navigate the complexities of different situations, and they always just choose the easiest pathway. So it's easy to understand in some ways how it is that Trump manipulates them, because it's most of them would never ever be able to land a job as lucrative as the one they have in real life.
Hmm. Okay.
And so now you're dealing with a bunch of people that really want to hang on to this job because it's a great job for them. They're making boatloads of cash, through the various means that Congress people make boatloads of cash. And
Basically, you're
and
saying
so
insider trading. Yeah.
yeah, insider trading and all the other things that go with it. I mean, all the other
Yeah.
little deals and all the other little things that that are technically legal. but that
Mm-hmm.
still put a lot of money into people's pockets. The speaking engagements, the different things that happen. There's just a
Well, they're
lot of
not.
money to be made from these
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah, well, there's no question. Now, my understanding is they're not supposed to be making money through speaking engagements while they're in office, but definitely, I think you're right. There are lots of ways that they do it, find ways to do it, and there are ways they can capitalize on their tenure in Congress. Once they get out, so they can make more money. I mean, it's definitely it could be a very lucrative gig, for the rest of your life, really. You
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah, and listen, I know that they're not going up to speak and somebody's handing them a check for that, but,
Hmm.
you know, uh, they're going to speak and the foundation gets some money and,
Hmm.
and the contract comes through and, and those sorts of things.
Oh.
And so, look, it's yeah, they don't want to lose it though is the key, and
Yeah.
they want to be to remain in those jobs, and and Trump and them. What gets me though is has Trump and them really been successful at primarying anybody? I
Well,
mean, hell,
I
has he
was
been successful at getting anybody elected to anything, anytime, ever?
I was going to raise that. I'm glad you said it because with the conversation had taken a different turn and I'd forgotten, but I was going to raise
Yeah.
that. He's got a sorry track record when
Oh
it
yeah.
comes to endorsing winning candidates. So if it were me, if I were in Congress, I wouldn't be worried about Trump as much as I would be about what are my constituents saying. And right
Yeah.
now, a lot of Republican constituents are pissed. They're
Hmm.
pissed, and I
Oh
and I
yeah.
can only imagine that after hearing Trump's so-called State of the Union, that a lot of them are more pissed and more afraid
Yeah.
because he's talking about not just Medicaid now, but Medicare, Social Security. I mean, he's hinting at the very least, that those things could be affected, and he certainly with these tariffs is creating economic upheaval that's going to come our way. I think in a very major way because what Trump doesn't seem to realize is, the bullying tactics that he has used that have worked on American politicians aren't going to work on people that have their own constituencies in other governments around the world.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a given that that's going to work. It's not working with Mexico. It's not
No.
working with Canada.
Nope.
They're saying, all right, it's not going to work with China. They're all saying, all right, fine. You don't raise tariffs, we're going to raise tariffs. You know.
Yeah.
So now what are you
And
going to
and
do?
it's and it's also so counterproductive to behave in such a manner with your allies.
Yeah.
When a simple meeting often would result probably in a lot more positive and favorable outcomes than what you're doing here. And really, it's just a show for the most part that he's putting on with these countries. It's just a show to try to say, oh, listen, we're more powerful, we're giving them more, so they've got to do what we say. And I mean, it's honestly, we've all dealt with people like that, whether it be a friend or a coworker. Coworker is usually the problem, where you've got somebody that's maintained somehow or another gotten a little bit of power and a little bit of influence, and
Mm-hmm.
and they use it to bludgeon everybody over the head with and irritate the hell out of everybody with it, and they're hated. They're just it just they may get what they want in the short term, but in the long term there everybody in the room is waiting to just Julius to Caesar the hell out of them. I mean, it's just y- uh, you know what I mean? Everybody's got a knife and they're just waiting on the moment.
Right. Right.
And it's just, honestly, man, it is, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Even Brutus, man, even Brutus.
E.T.
And that's, yeah, that too. But I mean, it's just, man, it's so ridiculous. And then to watch what happened with Ukraine and Zelensky and to know the history there of Trump trying to pressure him in the last time when he was in office, the thing that he got impeached for, that he should have been impeached for.
Mm-hmm.
And then him talking openly about his relationship with Putin. and we went through a lot together. Remember the phony collusion, the Russia. Remember that? Let me tell you something, okay? And this is another really big problem with Democratic messaging on things, okay? That dude colluded with Russia, all right? He and his campaign colluded with Russia. They did it. They absolutely did it, okay? What they did not do is commit Trump himself did not commit criminal collusion, because to rise to that level, you have to be the instigator of the collusion. All right? That's what happened. That's the reason why he could not be prosecuted, even though what's the dude that ran the investigation now that Trump tried to trash, and it was the good dude that ran that whole Russian deal, and he told him, look, I think you should probably refer this for a deeper look, but I can't remember his name now. I'm drawing a blank. There's so much shit that happens with Donald Trump that I cannot. I'm drawing a complete blank. But there's probably everybody listening right now is screaming the name of this guy. But it just honestly, he did it. They all did it. Russia was doing these things. They knew Russia was doing it. They took advantage of it. They accepted the help, which should be enough to disqualify you from being a president or in any elected office in this country. I mean, who would disagree with that? That a foreign adversary comes in to help a candidate in an American election through illicit means and through manipulation of that election, and you take it. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Come the hell on. But I mean, this I don't know. So anyway,
You're talking about Robert Mueller. Was it
Mueller? Mueller. I kept wanting to say Murdoch, but yeah, Mueller.
Mm-hmm.
It just throughout that Mueller investigation, or at the end of that, when he put everything down, he did it. He did the stuff, and we let him off with this fake. Everybody just lets him say now it's a fake thing, and nobody pushes back on it. But no, you took it. You did collude.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I get that just arguing with him is like arguing with an infant. But at the same time, it matters. Those things do matter on that thing. Just simply because they didn't move forward with the prosecution of him does not mean that he did not do something that was basically wrong. Basically wrong.
And I think what you just said is really key. It does matter. People have to stand up to him, which is why I'm glad that Zelensky did not just, he was outnumbered, which I think is also interesting because that was kind of a gangbanger kind of move there. But, with Trump and Vance and then the sycophantic right-wing media in there. But you know what? Zelensky stood his ground, and that's what you got to do. And I also like what Representative Al Green did at Trump's so-called State of the Union speech, where he stood up and said, you do not have a mandate as it relates to Medicaid. And he kept repeating that. They kicked him out. He comes out and talks to the press, and he reiterates it. And he and elaborates on it. You got to stand up. You can't let a bully punk you. You got to stand up to a bully.
Yeah, no, you're right. And this idea of a mandate, and I've heard Democrats even go along with this shit about a mandate. What are you talking about? He won by 1.5 million votes. He's the first Republican in 20 years to just win the popular vote. So now just winning the popular vote for Republicans is a mandate. Did they treat Biden as though he had a mandate? That son bitch won by 8 million votes.
Right. And if you look at it in terms of hardcore percentages, including Stein, the votes that Stein got, Jill Stein, the votes that RFK got, Trump only got 0.5% of the vote more than Kamala Harris and the other two.
Yep.
So that's no mandate.
No, of course not. And if you remove some of those things, he's down below 50% as well. It just, honestly,
exactly.
It's ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous. This idea of a mandate and and somehow or another we have to acquiesce to Donald Trump at this point. You know what? I posted this as well a few times. I think that Democrats ought to acquiesce to Donald Trump the same way that Republicans acquiesce to Barack Obama. I think they should treat Donald Trump exactly the same way that Barack Obama was treated. Because if you want to talk about a mandate, I can tell you a dude who had a mandate. All right, I can tell you a dude who had a clear mandate, and their goal, as they stated out loud on the record multiple times, was to oppose everything he did all the time. Did not matter whether it was the best for the country or not. They were going to oppose him and make him into this socialist, foreigner that was coming in here to do racist things to white people. And that's exactly what they did. All right. And they did it over and over and over and over again wrongly. The best president we've had in a generation or more. And what he could have been had he had just an inkling of basic support and decency from the right, it would have been phenomenal.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell came right out and said, our objective, our sole objective, is to make Obama a one-term president. They failed at that. The American people rejected that tactic, but that did not dissuade McConnell and the Republicans one bit. They stayed on that course for 8 freaking years, and that's exactly what the Democrats should do. They ought to stymie Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans at every single opportunity.
Yep, they should. And they should make a federal case out of all of it. All right, before we move on, I did bring up Tommy Tuberville earlier, and because we need to get Margaret Huang in from the SPLC in just a few minutes, and talk to her about the events over in Selma and what the SPLC is still doing for the bridge crossing and the bus boycott and the whole thing that is very important. Because who knows how long we're gonna be able to celebrate that. It's
wow, that's a thought, isn't it?
Right. But I brought Tuberville. There's been some news with him, and he is kicking around the idea of running for governor. He's apparently told some people that he is interested in running for governor. He's thinking about it. He doesn't know if he wants to maintain his Senate seat, or give that up and take a run in 26 for this open governor seat that Alabama will have. And everybody has predicted, that Tuberville would walk into this thing as the clear front runner and be very, very hard to beat. I think half of that's true. I think
agree.
half of that's true.
I agree. Yeah,
he would walk into it the front runner.
Let's see which half you go ahead. I want to hear your half.
Okay.
I've got my half.
All
go ahead.
Yeah, he'll walk into it as the front runner because he has the name identification and things. I don't think he will be particularly hard to beat in that race. I think running for governor in Alabama is wholly different than running for U.S. senator, and I think running for U.S. senator in the way that he did it against Jeff Sessions was a fluke. He had the biggest assist that you could possibly get in that race by the fact that Jeff Sessions had fallen out of favor with Donald Trump. He had Trump constantly lobbing bombs into his campaign over there. And so Tuberville didn't really have to do much of anything. He never had to answer any hard questions. As a matter of fact, the one hard question he did have to answer was about whether or not he even lived in this damn state, and he still didn't answer that question. And he still doesn't live in this state. So I think that when he runs up, let's say Will Ainsworth stays in this race. Let's say Rick Pate, the ag commissioner, is going to continue to run in the race, and let's say Kent Davis, the former VA commissioner, is going to make a run at this thing, and maybe another dark horse candidate like, let's say, Caroline Dobson on the right. Now I'm just talking about Republicans because look, let's be honest, right now that's all that's going to win this race. Okay, all right. So this thing is going to be decided.
Well, I need to jump in here because I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Okay. I think that if Tuberville were to come out on top, he is the most vulnerable Republican that we've probably ever seen in the past. I'll say since I've been here, outside of maybe if the Love Gov had tried to run again, he would have been more vulnerable. But Bob Bentley. But aside from Bentley, I think he'd be the most vulnerable Republican ever because, as you've already pointed out, it's there's it by all appearances, and you probably know more concrete evidence than I do. I don't have any concrete evidence, but everything seems to point to the fact that he doesn't live in the state. A, B, he has, I think, taken positions that are absolutely untenable as it relates to some of the key issues that Alabamians are dealing with, with his support of President Trump overall as it relates to, the way that Medicaid is going to be impacted, by the way that perhaps Social Security and Medicare may be impacted. I think Tuberville's alignment with Trump actually can backfire on him when it comes to some of those key things. The way he handled the situation with the military, holding up promotions, bogging that process down. I think all of that makes him very vulnerable in this state. So if he emerges as the Republican candidate, I think he actually is going to get a fight from if there's a credible Democrat who runs against him, who has resources, who has infrastructure in place. I think Tuberville will be in for the fight of his life, and there's a good possibility that he'll lose. Now, in terms of the Republican primary, I agree with you. He comes in as the front runner. My question is, and this is where I'd like to really hear what you think. My question is, how is Ainsworth or Pate or anybody else going to campaign against him in a way that will not alienate the Republican base, but will that advance themselves?
Well, I think you're going to have to, and that's the other thing about this is you're going to have to kind of nail down the fact that this is going to be about some issues that they are the issues that are important to people in this state, and the fact that he doesn't know them. He doesn't know any of the real issues of the state. He's not going to be able to articulate a position on things. If you were to ever actually get him into a debate, it would be an unmitigated disaster. He would be an absolute train wreck. And so, those sorts of things, I think, are the way to go about it. And they'll have to attack him over the fact that he doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. He's out of touch with folks. He's been out of touch with things. He's done some stuff in terms of. I'll tell you the other thing that he's got a big problem with, and that's the reason why I think Ken Davis is a problem for people is that he's this stuff with the veterans. He made the promises about donating the salary and never donated the salary to the veterans. He had the problems with the veteran stuff way back with the organization that he put together, and it's just I think all of that reporting and all of that stuff gets a deep dive. And I'll tell you the other problem I think Tuberville has got is I think he's got one probably at the house, and because from as my understanding, I don't think his wife wants to do this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and so I think that if that comes to if that's a problem, then that's a huge issue. Because I mean, look, you just can't do it. You can't do that job without the support of your spouse, and you cannot do it. It can't happen. Even one that's just well, what kind of takes a well, whatever attitude. I don't even think that'll work. It's just too tough of a gig to do that. And let's also be honest. I'll tell you the other thing that people are going to hold against him is the fact that he's old. What is
you think in this state? You think in this state? We got
I
an
think
80-year-old governor right now.
I do, and I think that's the reason why. I think that's the reason why he's 70 years old now, so he'll be 72 then, or 70. Going 72, so he would be 76 years old at that point. I just think that they have. I think the appeal at this point, after having Kay Ivey in there and all the knocks on her, I think the appeal will be for a younger person. I think that was something that people will gravitate towards. Is having a younger gubernatorial candidate on the ballot, and so that's just me. But
so he's 70. He's 70 now. He'd be 72 in 2026. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know. I see where you're going with that. I'm just not sure because he does not. I mean, I don't know how to say this other than just to say it. Governor Ivey, God bless her, and I certainly don't, even though I disagree with her politics, I don't wish her any harm at all. But she looks her age.
Yeah,
She
she's
looks
not a
her
healthy.
age.
She's not a healthy 80. Yeah.
No, she's not a spry 80. God bless her. And I mean that sincerely. God bless her.
Yeah,
But
no, and you're right
she's
about
not a
Tuberville.
spry
I know
80.
where you're going.
And
Yeah.
Tuberville doesn't look aged in that same way, you know?
Yeah. No, he does not. He doesn't. He does not. But when you juxtapose him up against, let's say, an Ainsworth, or or somebody like that, or even Rick Pate, I just think that you're looking at a whole different sort of person, and so I'm not saying that's the thing that gets it. I'm just saying that I think that's a factor in it as well. And so I just, but
maybe.
overall, I'll say I don't think the Democrats have a shot. I think we're still, if they got things together and started building, I think we're still a solid 2 election cycles away from having an opportunity to put a candidate up there that has what you were talking about, the resources and the infrastructure to be able to mount a serious campaign against somebody. In a general election. In a general election, in a state with a straight party ticket voting option, all of that stuff, I just don't think that they can. I just don't think so. Even with a flawed candidate like Tuberville.
Yeah, you may be right. You may be right, but I will tell you this: I will never give up.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not giving up. I'm just saying. I just don't think that it's there. I just don't think that it's there. I want it to be there. I want it to be a 2-party state.
I will be and I know you do. I'm going to be as optimistic as possible. And again, I'm saying a credible candidate. It can't, God bless Miss Flowers who ran the last time, but it can't be a Miss Flowers. It's got to be somebody that has some name recognition, has the ability.
Stephen Reed, Doug Jones,
to get some money in. Somebody who has the ability to pull together. I think an infrastructure and support. It's got to be somebody credible.
Yeah. Maybe get Anthony Daniels to run. Get split off some of those Republicans.
There are a number of people out there who would be good candidates, and our friend Anthony would certainly be one of them. He'd be one of them.
He's somewhere. He's going out of his mind right now that we've mentioned this. So, all right, let's slide out. We're going to come back with Margaret Huang from the SPLC, and also we have a former guest that is going to be on with us as well, who is looking for higher office, and so I got a surprising and honestly welcomed announcement. So look forward to that. We'll be back in a minute. It's Alabama Politics This Week, brought to you by Wind Creek Entertainment.
Welcome back to Alabama Politics This Week. I'm supposed to be speaking now. David Person here, along with Josh Moon. And we are very pleased to have with us someone who has emerged as a major player in the city of Decatur in terms of civic issues. And I think maybe an announcement has been made by now about a certain new venture that Mr. Nicholas Perkins is embarking on. Nicholas, first of all, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, David. Also, you too, Josh. Good to see you,
sir.
guys.
Thank you, Nicholas.
It's been a while.
So, it has. So now we wanted to have you on because, if I'm not mistaken, you did something pretty special this week. You made an important announcement. Share it with our listeners and viewers.
Actually, that announcement was not made. For a couple of reasons. One, the weather just wasn't the right. It wasn't at the right place. I'll say that, just because we had a weather day yesterday. But also, some new information has emerged that another candidate may be entering the race, so that presents some challenges. But the announcement was for a potential mayoral candidate.
Okay.
As I stated, some more information has emerged that another candidate may be entering the race, which could create some a little bit more division than we want. So we may have to re-strategize, if that makes sense. Me personally, I want to do what's best for the city of Decatur. It's going through a lot right now, with the current administration, with the current police department and its police chief and its interim. And there are a lot of challenges facing Decatur right now. And it has caused an gargantuan amount of division between citizens. So a lot of people are kind of just up in arms right now. They really don't know what to do. They do want to push forward, but I don't think they know how just yet. And so my position is that I want the best candidate to come forth. Now, do I think I'm the best candidate? Of course. But that does not sway the minds of citizens just yet. So especially with newcomers coming into the game. Mind you, we're just in March. Qualifying does not come until June. And the elections are not until August. So there's still quite a bit of time. So my team and I are just kind of strategizing to make the best move. And as I stated, yesterday was supposed to be a big announcement, but we postponed it just because of some new information that we've just received.
All right, so Nicholas, the announcement was supposed to have been that you were going to be announcing your run for mayor of Decatur. And of course, this comes in the aftermath of the horrific shooting, killing, murder of your brother, Steve.
Yes, sir.
And that is what has sort of put you on the platform, not just in the city of Decatur, but really, I would say even in the state. Puts you on a platform of notoriety, and you've conducted yourself. I mean, Josh and I have talked about this. You've conducted yourself extremely well, handled things in an amazing way, and it's been very impressive. So you are now telling us that you're holding off on making an announcement because you and your team are trying to assess what your next move can be in light of the fact that someone new may be entering the race. Can you tell us who that new someone is?
It hasn't been confirmed yet because this person hasn't come forth, but I'm looking forward to them making an announcement pretty soon. And that would be Councilman Billy Jackson. And so that may create a split, especially in the black vote. And that's what we don't want. So we're just trying to wait and see what the best move is. You know, when you're starting races like this, it's more chess, it's not checkers. So we're just trying to figure out the best possible move to make here in the next few weeks. Again, as I stated, I want to do what's best for Decatur, and if Decatur thinks that I'm best, then great. But we do want to do what's best for our community and for what's best for this situation right now and moving Decatur forward.
So Billy Jackson has been on the council for, I'm just taking a wild guess here, at least 20 to 25 years, right?
29 to be exact.
29 years.
Okay. 29.
And so your concern, and this will be my last question before I toss it over to Josh. Your concern is that you and Councilman Jackson running against each other could split the black vote. But what about, you said you think you're the better candidate or the best candidate. Is there anything about Councilman Jackson's candidacy or potential candidacy that concerns you either from a political standpoint or from a civic leadership standpoint?
Actually, I think Councilman Jackson is he's held a great office, and he's been there for 29 years, so he's got plenty of experience. He knows exactly how the city runs. My experience is not as extensive as his, but I do have a foothold in how the city operates just because I work for a city entity. My concern is the concerns of the citizens. Jackson has been here for 29 years, and they're going to be wondering what has happened in these last 29 years, especially in the last 2 years that concerns the situation with my brother. He has stepped up He has made his concerns known. But is that enough? Again, 29 years is a long time, but what has happened in those 29 years? And from just me going around talking to different citizens in Decatur, people are ready for something new. They want a fresh face. They want new blood. They want new ideas. They're tired of Decatur being stagnant, and it's been stagnant, if I may say, for the last 20 years. And Decatur has operated on a good old boy system, quote unquote. And I think people have finally gotten tired of it. The death of my brother, the murder of my brother, has exposed a lot of corruption in the city. It has exposed a lot of corruption in the administration. Also a lot of corruption in the police department. And so people are just tired of being in Decatur and being the butt of a joke. One thing that I have expressed quite a bit is that Decatur used to be top tier. It was known as one of the best cities in North Alabama. And now, for the past decade, maybe 20 years, every neighboring city around Decatur has grown except for Decatur. And that's a problem. I don't know if you've read, but that the FBI is sending 500 agents to Huntsville, Alabama, who's going to be looking for jobs. They're going to be looking for housing. They're going to be looking for entertainment, places to raise their kids. And me personally, I want Decatur to be one of those cities that they look at to settle in. I just don't want everything going to Athens, Madison, Huntsville, or even Coleman. That's ridiculous, especially when Decatur is the river city. We're right on the river. Why are we not utilizing that point? And it seems that here in the last few years, nobody has tried to express that, to move Decatur to a place to where Decatur can reclaim its rightful place as one of the top cities in North Alabama. That's my goal. And so, again, with the current administration, the current council, nobody has tried to push that agenda. And so that's what we're kind of fighting against and waiting on to see if the people will grab or gravitate toward my way of thinking, or if they'll gravitate toward the way of someone else is thinking. And so that's my concern with Mr. Jackson. He has an older population that has grown with him over the last 29 years. But let's be honest, there's a new generation of younger people who are coming up, and that's what I want to attract. That's what I want to get, so that our younger generation can get involved and be knowledgeable about the things that go on within the city, so that when situations arise, like the Steve Perkins movement, we're not caught off guard. We're not stuck stagnant and trying to protest and get our views across by gathering at City Hall every week. We should have somebody in the inside who knows how things are working, so that we'll have good direction, good points, good places to go to get our points across, to get laws changed, to get ordinances done, so that the city can run smoothly and move to a progressive state.
Yeah. So I grew up in Decatur. Family still lives there. Our brother, his family lives there. My mother and dad still live there. All of my family are still in town there. Everything you said is true. I mean, it's every bit of it is true. We joke about it all the time about Decatur being this dead place and what it used to be and how it was, when I was growing up. Where we had the nice mall, you had Point Mallard, you had people would come to Decatur, because it was a nice place and it was a good place, and it has been systematically destroyed over the course of the last several years by this good old boy system. And I'll give you just one example. Just one example sums it all up. And we've had Carl Cole on here before to talk about this, and that was the agreement with 3M. No other city in this state would have made that agreement with 3M and short-shifted themselves in the way that Decatur did, just because they were satisfying that good old boy system. And that's the reason why Hunter Pepper is on that council right now. That's the reason why you can't get anything done around the city, is because of that little system of people that are run. And hell, you can name off the people that are Arthur Orr's in that group. Some of the folks that are running Cooks over there is in the group. The folks that run the Decatur Deli, they're all part of this good old boy sort of system of things that control pretty much everything that happens around the city. And you're right, people are sick of that. And I like Billy Jackson. I like a lot of things that he says. I respect the hell out of him for the fight that he's put up for 30 years over there. Okay, I do. But at the same time, I feel like I'm fairly in touch. Well, I know you're in touch with a lot of the Black community, especially the younger folks around there, and I feel like I'm in touch with people in the white community and especially the white working class folks, and they respect the hell out of you. Okay, and I hear it all the time. I'll tell you right now, one guy I'd vote for is that Nick Perkins guy. I mean, the way he's handled this whole thing has just been phenomenal. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times over there. And I don't think Billy Jackson has that level of support among everybody, a widespread swath of Decatur. I think you're right. And if he were to get in the race, it would be detrimental to your campaign. But is there an opportunity to convince him that the best pathway forward is you?
Josh, I would very much like that opportunity. And if I'm not mistaken, well, I'm not mistaken. The opportunity, that opportunity for him to actually have that type of dialogue did happen a couple of months ago, but he refused to actually engage in that. And that's a problem.
Well, it seems like a setup, doesn't it? It seems like a setup, a good old boy setup is what it seems like.
You're not the first person to say that. But yeah, that like I said, that opportunity was presented a few months ago, and he just refused to actually engage in that conversation. And from what I've been hearing, I've just been hearing bits and pieces that he's been kind of going around town and trying to get funds, raised to launch a campaign, which I understand. That's fine. That's what you want to do. Again, like you said, I respect him. He's been on the diocese for 29 years, and he has a name ID. But it's been 29 years. It's time to move forward. It's time to pass the torch, so to speak. And it would have been nice to have been groomed in a way to actually get help from Mr. Jackson. I would absolutely love to take advice from him as to how different parts of the city move, or who to talk to, who not to talk to. That would be great. But Decatur has such a crabs in a barrel mentality, and I hate it. Yeah, it's just that you want to move forward, but you've always got somebody pulling you down. And it always seems to be your own people. And a lot of times here in the last couple of years, I've received a lot of scrutiny from my own side of people, saying, well, who does he think he is? He can't do this, and it shouldn't be that way. And even from you, Josh, and just from the white side of town, I've received a lot of compliments, and I appreciate everybody. I'm just a person that believes that you can't move forward if you're not unified. Black people need white people. White people need black people. I'm sorry. You just do. And everything does not require you going downtown and hollering and with a hoodie on and a fist in the air. Some things require sitting down and actually having a healthy conversation. And that's how you get things done. I've met with several city council members in private and had those conversations about what we need to do, what ideas I've had, or who I suggest for certain positions, and they take an account into those things. And we've made a small step forward with, removing Todd Pinion and getting an interim chief. But there's more work to do. We've got 4 more years on top of a murder trial that's coming up next month.
Right.
That has frankly dismantled a whole city.
Yeah.
Something has to be done, and you have to have prominent leaders, people that you might not even think could be good for a position to help move Decatur forward. And just because I don't have a career or past in politics does not mean I'm not the best person for the job, or I don't have the ideas to spark change. And that's what I want. That's what Decatur wants, is change. Yeah. And you can't have change unless you be the change. So I'm stepping in that spot, trying to get all the support I can. Hopefully, a conversation with Councilman Jackson will happen here in the near future, and we can come to some type of resolve. But if not, I'll just consult with my team and we'll move forward as we plan to.
Yeah. I would say this to a lot of people, the success of the movement following your brother's murder. I wish people would take a look at what made it successful, and it's because it was not just a black community movement. It was
Right.
not just something that happened among activists and people. You had people, and I'm telling you, man, some of my friends who would I guarantee you, if you went back through their Facebook feeds and stuff, you'd find all sorts of stuff dogging Black Lives Matter and things like that. And those people to a person will have come up to me and said, "Listen, that stuff that happened with Steve, that was awful. We got to do something about it. We can't let this stand." And they saw it for what it was, and they stood up, and that's what's made this whole thing so successful. And I'll tell you, it's what scared the hell out of a lot of people in that good old boy system that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
It has really scared them about what could be done if people did come together and start standing up for the folks, the ordinary folks that are working around there, and stop
Absolutely.
some of these initiatives that punish the Hispanic community, stop some of these initiatives that make it to where you can't get anything paved or any road work done in Northwest Decatur, where you can't, somehow or another, the folks out, on the backside of, when you headed down there in the other side of Decatur, in the East Decatur and all that, Southeast and Southwest, especially way down Southwest
Right.
Decatur. Somehow or another, they've got new roads and new buildings and new all sorts of stuff over here, but all these other stuff, there's no money. There's no money
Right.
ever in the budget for things. And also, you got a whole generation of kids that went to school at Brookhaven, where apparently we were sitting on top of a 3M dumping site that we never knew anything about, and they
Right.
came up with a settlement that was the most absurd settlement that you had 3M willing to give you more money, and they didn't take it.
Right.
And it just all of that stuff combined, I think has really kind of come together to unite a bunch of people. And I wish it could keep going, because if it did, and you got you in as mayor and made some changes on that council, Decatur could be looking at a whole new game coming up. And
Yes.
I just, I know it's a long-winded speech, really, but and it's a lot of stuff that I'm preaching to the choir at this point. But
Right.
I hope, man, I wish you'd just kind of stay in it, and give folks that option, because I think that while it may split some of the black vote, I still think that you have a movement kind of behind you in this that I don't think should be undersold.
Okay. So Nick, following up on what Josh is saying, are you saying that if Billy Jackson is in, you're out?
I'm not saying I'm out. It just would be probably in a different capacity.
What does that mean?
I think, from what I'm gathering and from what my team is gathering, if Mr. Jackson decides to enter the race, he'll lose his council seat. And if he does it, I'll go for council.
Okay.
I'll go for council. That'll be a start. Now, do I want the mayor's position? Of course. That's a place to make change. But so is council, though. And the one thing about Decatur is your mayor has power, but your council has control. So I would take either one, to be honest with you. Like I said, I know what I want, but my heart says to do what's best for Decatur.
Why do you prefer the mayor's seat or the mayor's office to the city council seat?
Why would I prefer the mayor's seat?
Yeah.
Well, because that's where your true leadership comes in at, to me. And that's what we have lacked for the last 5 years. And Decatur needs to be able to see somebody that they can believe in, somebody that they can get behind, somebody that they can put their support into. And right now, we just don't have that. If you would just listen to some of the comments, if you see some of the facial expressions, some of the conversations with people when they see our current administration, it's not good. It's not good at all. And people would actually like to be able to be proud to say the name of a different person who's in leadership, who they can say, well, he does offer transparency. He holds the office with integrity. And whatever he does, we think will be the best decision for Decatur, and we stand behind him. And that's why I would prefer the mayor's seat. I know the potential I have. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's nothing like that, because everything that I do is precise and is done in faith. I always pray before I make any decision. And so if people can actually see that and get behind that, support it, I think it'll take Decatur to a whole new level. And if you're doing it at the top, it has to trickle down. So if the mayor's doing it, the council's got to do it. If the council's doing it, your directors are doing it. If your directors are doing it, your employees are doing it. If your employees are doing it, it's trickling down to your citizens. And that's the only way, I think, to move Decatur forward.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. And you're definitely right about the lack of leadership. I'll be honest. I was, I've said this before, I am kind of friend adjacent with Tab Bowling. And I always respected Tab. I thought he was going to do a good job. The way he's conducted himself over the last 2 years has just been pitiful. It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing that I ever said, I think old Boland's a good guy. It's just, just the way he has handled this whole thing is, you're right. It's been a complete and utter lack of leadership. And I think right now, if you were in and Jacob Ladner continued on as council president and you made some changes on the council, I just think that it would be a monumental improvement to the leadership in Decatur and things that could get done there. And I hope that it happens. And so I hope, if nothing else, we can get you on the council and, but I would really prefer you in the mayor's seat, because I have my doubts about Billy being able to take that seat. I feel like if he met a challenge, he's not going to be able to collect enough votes from outside the black vote to be able to get over the hump. I just don't think that they're there at this point in the city of Decatur. And I think he has alienated a lot of people over the course of his time there, some rightfully so. Some he absolutely should have alienated, but at the same time, I don't think he can get over the hump, and I'm afraid we're going to be left with a good council and a bad mayor, which is kind of the situation that we're in right now. And so,
yeah.
But hey, Nick, listen, man, thank you for coming on and spending time with us and all your work that you've done. And listen, no matter what happens, I'll tell you this: you've inspired a hell of a lot of people to pay attention and to be better and to know that there are people out there with the potential to lead that are good people and that care about the city and care about the people in it. And for that, we can't thank you enough, man.
No, I appreciate you guys. And just remember, it's just March. It's not over with,
That's right.
We still got time. Things can change in an instant. Just to add a little bit more to the repertoire, I'll be down in Montgomery this weekend at the NAACP 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, being honored down there by President Hamilton. It's a great opportunity, and maybe I can share the story with Steve some more, maybe get some more support behind me for Decatur. So, I'm constantly working, constantly trying to drive change for the city of Decatur, get some things moving. And again, it's just March. We still got some time. I'm sure I'll be back on with you guys to talk more. I'm always willing. I appreciate you guys covering the story, always getting coverage out there. It makes my heart feel good. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
you, Nick. And good luck this weekend, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Safe travels, man.
Yes, sir. That is Nick Perkins, hopefully the next mayor of Decatur, but if not, the next councilman of Decatur. So one way or the other, we'll get him in and doing some good. All right, we're going to slide out. We'll come back, wrap this thing up. It's Alabama Politics This Week. We're back in a minute. All righty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person, and we are happy now. I told everybody before, when we look for stories and stuff, and we want to know answers about things, we don't mess around at the bottom. All right, we don't mess around at the bottom. We go right to the top. And we have the president and CEO of Southern Poverty Law Center, Margaret Huang, with us now. Thank you, Margaret, for joining us again. We really appreciate it.
Josh, David, it's always fun to get a little time with you. Thanks for making it.
Good to see you, Margaret.
You're one of the few people who say that. That's the reason why we keep inviting you back. Most people are like, oh, you guys again. All right, let's. So y'all have some fairly big events coming up. I guess this is probably is it fair to say this is kind of y'all's biggest week coming up?
And it's definitely one of them. This anniversary of the Selma Jubilee is always important for our civil rights work to remember and to keep going forward.
All right, I guess let me just give you the floor for just a second with a pretty general question, and just say what are the highlights of some of the things y'all have planned for the week?
Well, if you can believe it's been 60 years since the original Selma March, it's really such an important moment, both because of that 60-year anniversary, but also because of the moment we're in, when we're seeing so many people in government actually try to go backwards from having access to the ballot box for everyone. And so it's an important reminder of what our communities had to go through to get us to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And it's an equally important call to action, that this is not a moment to throw our hands up in the air or to say we can't do anything. This is a moment to be inspired by the legacy of those foot soldiers and to say we're going to help go forward. So we have activities, we have commemorations, we have celebrations of some of the amazing leaders in our community. And all that is happening this week.
Right. Is that, let me see, can folks go onto the website and find a list and a schedule of events?
Yeah, and let me tell you a little bit about what's happening, especially on Friday. So as you know, we try to support all the activities that are happening in Selma on Saturday and Sunday. So we've organized a lot of our things on Fridays so that hopefully people are able to join us. And Friday morning, we're going to be welcoming young people from across Alabama and some other states to come to the Southern Poverty Law Center's offices downtown to learn about our civil rights history, to be inspired by those foot soldiers and the other leaders of the civil rights movement, and to be part of the wreath-laying ceremony that the Southern Poverty Law Center has done every year now for a few decades. Former Congressman John Lewis used to come every year to help us lay a wreath on the memorial for the civil rights martyrs. I'm so delighted to tell you that Congresswoman Nikema Williams is coming in his place now. She took his seat and she is now taking his leadership role in really lifting up that memory. So she'll be joining us at 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon to make some remarks and to lay the wreath on the memorial for those foot soldiers and for the people who sacrificed everything for the civil rights movement. After that, we're going to take all the young people and all the folks who turn out for the wreath laying, and we're going to march down the street to the Capitol building, where we're going to do a rally for voting rights and democracy at this particular moment, and urging with our community partners, urging all of us to really keep in mind what we can do to protect voting rights and democracy moving forward.
Well, that's given the times that we're in, hopefully no one gets arrested down through there with, because, peaceful protests, who knows if they're legal anymore. Right. I would encourage people, I had never been until the 50th. The 50th was my first time going to Selma, going over. I had a blast. It's a weird atmosphere because it is this serious remembrance, and there's so many things that they're at play there, but there's also this sort of almost a party like atmosphere, kind of to the side of things, and I like a good party. And so, I mean, there were, I don't know how many people there were on that bridge that day, but given the fact I found out sometime later that we didn't have any bridge inspectors working in the state, and so that really concerned me. But it was really something to see. President Obama was there, and just kind of walking around and talking to so many people, that have been touched by this, and the stories that we did leading up to it were, I mean, it really was kind of transformative for me, and understanding what had happened and why it happened, and where we were. And I think, how long have you been involved with this? How often have you gone?
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center itself has been participating for many,
Oh yeah,
many
well yeah,
years.
yeah, of
So,
course, yeah,
now I've been in my role for almost 5 years now.
right.
And it has been truly a joy for me to be joining not only my colleagues on staff here at SPLC, but also we have supporters from across the country who've been coming to join us the last few
Mm.
years. And that's made it really special that to bring people from around the country to learn in this moment and to be
Yeah.
inspired. And I'll tell you, you
Mhm.
know this, the last few years, we've seen our state house, we've seen other legislatures across the South try to make more and more obstacles to casting your vote. Even at the federal level now, they're trying to push new legislation that will make it really hard for anyone who has ever changed their name or not changed their name
Mhm.
to access the ballot box. If you're a woman who took your husband's name and you didn't actually ever formally change the paperwork, including your birth certificate, you may not
Huh.
be allowed to vote if this bill passes. So it matters that we're continuing to call out efforts to suppress the vote, but also that all of us feel some responsibility. Really, that's why the civil rights movement was successful. It wasn't because a group of elected leaders did that march or a group of civil rights advocates did that march. It's because people across all walks of life said, this really matters to me. And you had faith
Man.
communities, and you had workers, and
Mhm.
you did have community leaders, and you had everybody saying, wow, this matters for me, my community. I'm going to be part of it, especially the young people who are so inspirational. So we
Yeah.
hope people will get a sense of that this weekend and feel inspired.
So I know that the Southern Poverty Law Center, Margaret, has been a real beneficiary of the civil rights tourism industry that has emerged in this state. So we've got this really bizarre sort of confluence now of civil rights tourism, but also an anti-DEI environment. How's the Southern Poverty Law Center navigating that?
Well, you have to remember that there's no anti-DEI law in place.
Uh-huh.
It's a sentiment expressed right now by
Uh-huh.
people in this administration. It is being embraced by people who have never celebrated the progress that we've made over the last 60 years. For those of us who have been in this fight, this is not really an attack on DEI. Well, it's the catchword, the buzzword DEI. People don't even say what it stands for, diversity,
Right.
equity, and inclusion. Because if you say that, not many people are going to say, I'm completely against equity and inclusion and diversity. That does not make sense. So they're using it as a buzzword, and they're trying to instill fear amongst all kinds of folks across the country that we should move away from the embrace of those principles, when actually that is part of the American story about
Mhm.
building a community, a society that welcomes everyone, about giving everyone equal access and justice under the law. That's been a principle from the very beginning. And so the attacks on DEI are explained by people who are fearful of the progress we've made, people who are trying to hold on to or grasp power. And it's not actually justified by anything in the law. So I hope that people will not be afraid to celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion. I hope that people will celebrate the progress we've made as a nation by moving toward a more equitable society and seeing that as something that benefits all of us, and especially our children, our young people.
Yes.
It is a strange moment. You're right, David, but it's not something that we should accept as a real problem, because right now it is just rhetorical rejection by some people in power and not actually a commentary on the law. Civil rights protections are still enforced under constitutional guarantees. And we have to remember that and keep pushing for what our world should be.
So there is a movement, though, to try to change how history is taught. I mean, and that is not just rhetorical, it's also legislative, right? So what I wonder is, again, knowing the good work that the Southern Poverty Law Center does, I've actually taken the tour through the Southern Poverty Law Center myself on at least 2 or 3 occasions, if not more, and it's great. It's fantastic. How does that affect you, though, when you have this regulatory, or not regulatory, I'm sorry, but legislative effort coming at the state and federal level to change how history is taught?
They certainly are, and you know where they're doing it in our states here in the Deep South. That's where the challenges to teaching accurate history have come. When the civil rights movement was growing in power and becoming an effective champion, they were not teaching accurate history in schools.
Mm-hmm.
That was some of the wins that the civil rights movement accomplished, that we actually told the stories of all Americans in school, not just some Americans. And so we are harking back to that moment. Our Learning for Justice initiative is really about creating and disseminating educational materials, resources, not just for schools, and we've been doing the work in schools for a few decades now, but actually intending these resources for communities to use. You remember the Freedom Schools, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where people would bring community together to talk about and teach accurate history, what really happened, and why do we need to know that? Why is that important? Well, that's the strategy now that's part of Learning for Justice's work. So we are working with communities in different parts of the South to share these resources, to support the community to come together and to teach that history in, community meetings, in churches, in private institutions, where we can remind people, even if our legislatures are trying to hide what actually happened. And maybe we're going to be here for a little while we fight back against those legislative efforts. But I know that the people of this country are not trying to disregard our past, don't want to erase history. I think they just need to be assured that this is something that they can take a position on. This is something that they can contribute to by making sure their family, their children, are learning the accurate stories from our past.
So just 2 quick things. One, my church, the Oakwood University Seventh-day Adventist Church, actually hosted a Freedom School this summer in conjunction with a local organization called Village of Promise. So, we're real proud of that. The other thing I wanted to add is a question for you. So with this changing and somewhat, perhaps at times even volatile environment around history and the teaching of history and so forth, as we've talked about, are you seeing an increase in support, or has your support been affected?
I am so grateful and proud to tell you that we are seeing more and more people support us. Support us with their time, support us with their energy, and support us with their donations.
Beautiful.
People recognize this moment. We've seen this before. This is not, unfortunately, this is not new. It's a little bit of a return to the way things have been before. And I think people want to be part of it. They're expressing their support in many, many ways, but they also want to do something. And to your earlier question, I think helping everybody understand where these attacks are coming from, why they're being brought up again, and what we as individuals in this country can do to push back. This is absolutely the moment for that. And I hope Jubilee inspires everyone who comes to town this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to kind of wrap up with that, and ask, or there's events like Jubilee, that are the historic events that are going to attract a lot of people, and hopefully serve as a reminder of the progress that can be made in. I mean, let's be honest. As bad as things are right now, they were a lot worse. 1955, 1965. When these things were going on, and so I hope. Do you think that these things serve as a solid reminder to people of what can be accomplished?
Absolutely. I mean, the stories of the foot soldiers are so inspiring. These
Mhm.
were not leaders of big organizations they were a lot of young people who knew that the world could be better and should be better. And they
Mhm.
were willing to show that and put their bodies on the line to go and march and to protest and to make demands of their elected officials. Every time I hear their stories, I'm so inspired by what they accomplished. And it reminds me how lucky I am that I'm actually in a job that pays me to help push this fight forward.
Yeah.
And I hope other people will feel that same way, that this is something we collectively should be doing together. And
Yeah.
yes, I think people are going to feel a lot of that this weekend.
Yeah, you're right, and when you say that these were a lot of folks that they weren't not well known people at all. I'll never forget interviewing just we were doing interviews with folks for the 50th anniversary, and one of the ladies I talked to, and I mean I told this story to David, and and I told him I forgotten what the lady's name was at the time, but it was she was just a school teacher. She was a school teacher that had stood up as part of the lawsuit. That you ran into people like this all the time. Rosa Parks was just, she was a lady that, she had worked and done, the rape investigations and stuff as part of the NAACP, and all that. But every day, her and Fred Gray, I've talked to Fred Gray about this. Her and Fred Gray would go and meet and have lunch and stuff. She would get off and they would talk about what was going on, and it was just such a group of people that were just tired of being treated as lesser people, and they were going to do something about it. And it is very, very inspiring, it's got to feel good, right, to lead these events and know that you're contributing to folks continuing to hold up that legacy, doesn't it?
Oh, it feels great for me.
Right.
Absolutely. But as I say, I get so much out of these kinds of opportunities and events. I feel so inspired. I learn so much. I see people whom I want to emulate, and
Mhm.
just follow in their footsteps, because this is a moment that is calling on all of us to ask, what should we be doing? It's not a moment to sit and wait. It's not a moment to say, I hope things will get better, but I'm busy over here. It's a moment to say, we are all in this. This is affecting everyone, and especially somebody we love. And I hope
Right.
people will feel that inspiration and get busy.
Well, all right. Well, look, we'll get the link. We'll put it up on our website underneath the podcast, and make sure that folks get over there to the events. But regardless, we know that there are a ton of events on Friday with SPLC. We want to get, especially the young folks, get them out there, get them inspired, get them moving in the right direction, and know that people are behind them. Margaret, thank you so much for coming on
Yes.
and joining us, and for everything y'all do over there.
It's such a
Yes.
pleasure, Josh, David. Good to see you both. Thank you.
All
Good to
right.
see you too,
Thank you. That
Margaret.
is Margaret Huang, President and CEO of the Southern Poverty Law Center. They're doing great work. Y'all really get involved with some of the events. The wreath laying itself, I've been to it many times. It is it's hard to describe, but I know this, when you walk away from it, you feel better, and you feel better about the country and about what people are doing to kind of help others out. So, all right, we're going to slide out to Alabama politics this week. We'll be back in a minute. All righty. Welcome back. Alabama politics this week. Josh Moon, David Person. Thanks to all the
Yep, yep.
guests, and also to all the sponsors. The SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, the Wind Creek Entertainment, and everybody who kind of makes this thing go round and round. We really do appreciate it. We enjoy doing it. It's also nice to occasionally to get paid for the work that you do. It's never
Yep.
hurts. So we really appreciate everybody and what you do, and everybody for listening as well. We still do very well on the interwebs, and so we like that. If you'd like to send us an email, you can do that at apwproducer@gmail.com. That's apwproducer@gmail.com. All right. We're going to close out fast here and get the hell out of here because we've given y'all way too much, and we're not getting paid overtime. And so no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, but it hadn't hit yet. So our right wing nut this week is Charles Barkley. Honestly, David said it, and I was like, yeah, I was actually thinking we were thinking the same person when I saw his comments, and I mean, I love Charles. He's a good Auburn man. I love him on Inside the NBA. I'm a huge fan of his work. I liked a lot of things, his commentary. I just thought that what he said was dumb, actually.
Yep.
I really think it was dumb, and I really think it was harmful in terms.
Well, let's tell people what he said.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, what he said during that show, that podcast that he does, the Steam Room, he said that he thought it was dumb that teams are deciding not to go to the White House because some of these teams may not support who the president is at the time. And that's what Josh and I are talking about.
Yes, yeah. These teams don't do this lightly. And most of these teams are not filled with ultra political people. Most of them are not filled with Democrats or liberals or whatever. I would say it's probably a pretty solid mishmash of people. And they get together and they make these decisions, and they make these decisions based upon what's taking place in the world, and what's taking place in the world and their world and this country has troubled them, and it's troubled them the way certain people have been treated. It's troubled them the actions that have been taken by the person in power, and whether that's the Democrat or the Republican. If that's what they decide, okay, that's what they decided. And I respect those decisions, and and I think that in this particular regard, let's be honest, what he's talking about is not going to meet the Republican president, Donald Trump, because of the way Trump has behaved and the things that Trump has done and said and the way he's treated people and the fact that he's rolled back DEI protections and targeted black people and minorities of all sorts and made no real bones about it, made no real secret about a lot of it. And you know what? I think it's admirable in a lot of regards for the players who've taken a stand for themselves, and even more admirable, I would say, for a lot of those players on those teams who have looked at it and said, you know what, this stuff doesn't affect me, but it affects my friend, and I'm not going to go either.
So real quick, I got 2 quick points, Josh. Point number 1, it's a free speech issue. They have a right to go or not go. It's their choice as Americans. So, no, it's not dumb. It's free speech. Point number 2, last time, as best as I can recall, and Josh, if I'm misremembering, correct me here, but as best I can recall, there were no so-called Democratic-leaning teams or candidates who refused to go see Ronald Reagan or either of the Bushes. And you know why? Because they weren't jerks. They weren't jackasses. They didn't act like idiots. They didn't say stupid, vile things. They weren't despicable people. Trump is a despicable person. And he brings out something, I think, in many of us that is tantamount to rage and anger and other such feelings. and quite frankly, don't want to be associated with somebody like that. I don't
Nope.
think it's even about politics as much as it is about just his vile, nasty personality and the way he imposes that on his political positions.
I think that's 100% right, and and I respect them for their choice on this sort of thing. And you're right that nobody was turning down Reagan, the Bushes, or anybody else to go and see. And and I think that they up until this point in time felt fairly confident that the country was progressing in a way in which their rights were not being threatened on a daily basis, and now they are, and they're taking this is their limited way to take a stand on such a thing. So God bless them. And Chuck, come on, man, come on, come on,
come on, Chuck, come on, Chuck. We
all
like
right,
you,
let's
Chuck,
let's get ourselves out of here. Until next week, y'all be safe out there.
Peace.